There's multiple factors you have to consider when you want to claim something is the best in any game, and Elden Ring is no different, and neither are staves. What I'm here to do is to lay out the information for you so you can make your own personal decision. I don't know why I chose this hand signal. And then, of course, give you my personal top 3 staves. And if you disagree, that's fine. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion, no matter how wrong it may be. But, let me know down in the comments how wrong I am. Give me that sweet, sweet interaction. Now, this is about the time that I ask you to hit certain buttons on your screen to let me know that you liked or learned anything from the video, followed by me getting cut off mid-sentence. Fine. Hit that like button if you enjoy the video, and of course, surprise! I mean, like, seriously, what am I supposed... Oh, come on, no! I give up. This is ridiculous. I don't even know who's doing this to me. So... Alright, so what are these factors I'm talking about when it comes to staves? Well, it's time to go on to our favorite segment, to the spreadsheets! Just look at those words and numbers. Now, I'd like to mention before we get started, all of these tests were done at 80 int, and all of these staves are either plus 24, the ones for the regular smithing stones, or plus 9, the somber ones. Ancient Dragon smithing stones are like super late game, so I figured this was a bit more realistic demonstration as to what you'd expect with these staves. And lastly, the staves with asterisks next to them, like before and after, are the staves that scale with another attribute other than int. Like with the Gelmer Glintstone staff, it has an int scaling of B, but it also has a faith scaling of B. So the ones with the asterisks around them, not only did I have 80 int, but I also had 80 in the other stat that it scaled with. Got it? No? Who cares? Moving on. All right, starting from the top, Meteorite Staff has the lowest sorcery scaling. And by the way, the Meteorite Staff is the only staff in this list that cannot be upgraded. And going all the way down to the Prince of Death Staff, which has the highest sorcery scaling. All right, so the top 3 staves. Number 1, Prince of Death Staff. Number 2, Lusat's Glintstone Staff. And number 3, Albinaric Staff. And we're done, right?
Nope.
There's another big factor that comes into play, and that's the effect that each staff has. Ta-da! Now, these effects normally increase the damage of a certain school of magic, like the Meteorite Staff increasing your gravity sorcery by 30%. But there are also others. If we scroll down, we can see that the Lusat's Glintstone Staff increases your FP cost by 50%. Ugh. But these effects are important to consider when choosing which staff you'll be using. How important, you may ask? No? Am I hearing things? Well, let's look at a comparison between the bottom sorcery scaling staff, the Meteorite Staff, up here, and the Azura's Glintstone Staff, which is like decent amount better, right? 344 versus 272. Now let's use a couple of very popular spells and compare the damage. How about Glintstone Pebble and Rock Sling? So just looking at the Glintstone damage, you can see that the Azura's beats it out pretty obviously, right? 316 versus 425. But when you compare Rock Sling damage, that's a gravity spell. Remember, Meteorite increases gravity spells by 30%. The damage is really close. So consider the following. You get the Azura's Glintstone Staff way later in the game, and I had to upgrade this damn thing all the way up to plus 9. While the Meteorite Staff can be gotten way earlier, and you don't even have to upgrade it. Not to mention the Rock Sling spell is like right next to where you get the Meteorite Staff. And in case you're wondering, the Meteorite Staff and the Rock Sling spell are both next to the Streets of Sage's Ruin. I mean, look, they're right next to each other. It's like they wanted us to get both of them. And if you're wondering where that is, it's the red area. It's kind of hard to see. I'm going to have to like uncheck a lot of these things, but it's the red area, like if I recheck up locations. Oh God, it's so messy. But over here to the left, the Church of Ella is right here. And then the red area is over here. Boom. Beginning area. Boom. Streets of Sage Ruins. There's a link down in the description for the Meteorite Staff and the Rock Sling spell. And you can, of course, Google it, YouTube video. There's tons of videos out there that I'll give you a step-by-step walkthrough on how to get them. But you see, these effects, they make a difference. Now, what if I told you that wearing both of these staves can get you even more damage? You simply equip your highest sorcery scaling staff in your right hand, and you equip in your left hand a staff that can give you an effect. So, for example, if we were to take the Azure staff, put it in our main hand, and then the Meteorite staff, have it in our left hand to get the 30% gravity bonus, you'll now see that the Rock Sling damage has catapulted itself all the way up to 999 damage. Insane! This can be applied to any staff in the game that has an effect on it. There'll be a link down in the description of the wiki, shoutouts to Fextra, with a list of spells, and it'll give you an idea of what category each spell is under, so you know which staff is applicable to which spell. And the last two effects are with the Azure's Glintstone Staff, which we talked about a second ago, and the Lusat's Glintstone Staff. Now the Lusat's has a crap ton of sorcery scaling, right? It has the second highest in the game, but it comes with a 50% increased FP cost. That sucks, dude. If you're using something like Glintstone Pebble the entire game, or like another low cost spell, you can get away with it. But for all those fun spells that might cost a lot more, this increase is rough. And lastly, the Azure's Glintstone Staff, my personal favorite. This bad boy increases your cast speed by 10%. Well, 8 to 10%. I wanted to be safe so I couldn't be told I was wrong. Well, what does that mean? Well, that's essentially 40 decks. 40 decks! That's 40 levels! Now, it does come at a 20% increase FP cost, but it's more than like that Talisman Radagon, or Radagon, or who? You know, the Radagon icon, the talisman that all the spellcasters wear, that gives a virtual 30 decks. And just a heads up to all my homies, there is a soft cap and a hard cap with cast speed. The soft cap is 70 and the hard cap is 80. So if you put on the Azure's Glintstone Staff and the Radagon, you're already at the soft cap. 40 and 30 equals 70. Quick maths. And I'm sure you're going to have some decks on you, since characters start with decks and you probably put some into it, maybe to wear some gear. That might put you over the hard cap of 80. Not a big deal, but just something to keep in mind. And lastly, I want to briefly cover over the staves that have asterisks next to them. Those are the ones that scale with not only int, but also faith or arcane alongside it. Now listen, I'm not crazy. Putting 80 points into int and then like 80 points into faith to get your Gelmir Glintstone Staff up to 313 sorcery scale seems crazy, right? I mean, it is. This is not a good staff. That's why it's low on the list. Even something like the Albernic staff, something lower down here, it's still a tall order. And if you were thinking to yourself, maybe you do something like 40 int and 40 arcane for the Albernic staff, well, the sorcery scaling only ends up being like 299. And the damn astrologer staff has 333 at just 80 int. So just, you know, let that sink in. With all of this said, it's time to reveal my personal top 3 staves in the game. I was expecting some cheering, but thank you. Now, this decision was not an easy one. And you know what? I gotta add this. We're gonna do a runner-up to the top 3. So I guess it's like the top 4, but the runner-up, the staff that just barely missed out on the top 3, is all the way up at the top, the Meteorite Staff. This bad boy is ready to go straight out of the box. Access to this staff so early, S-scaling an int, and you don't even need to upgrade it. Makes it the go-to staff for like the first half of the game, and maybe even longer. I honestly wanted to put it into the number 3 spot, but the top 3 I kind of wanted to reserve for actual staffs being used in late game. And the Meteorite Staff kind of falls off. All right, now it's time for the top 3. In the number 3 spot, the Carrion Regal Scepter. This staff can be acquired by turning in the Remembrance of the Queen at the Round Table. You get the Remembrance from killing that main moon chick at Raya Lucaria Academy. You know what I'm talking about. This has solid sorcery scaling, and it has no downsides like the increased mana cost of like Lusat's and Azure's. It's just a safe choice. So if you want to be a basic bitch, this is the staff for you. By the way, if you've already turned in this Remembrance, like I have, to get that sweet moon attack, remember you can duplicate this Remembrance even after turning it in. Those mausoleums, you know, those giant bastards with bells hanging like testicles, this allows you to do it. Now, the one I used specifically was the Raya Lucaria's Crystal Tunnel. It's really close. Like, this is where you get the Remembrance, killing the moon chick. And then just northeast of it is this mausoleum. There's a wind surgy thingy around here. I know, very technical. That turret can fly up, and it may take a few tries. Make sure that the mausoleum's walking as close as it can to you, but you can land up on top of it. Destroy the white crap around the outside of the building until he falls down, then head inside, and you can duplicate. Bam! You've got your staff. You basic bitch. And very important, remember, once you duplicate at this mausoleum, you can no longer duplicate remembrances there. But there's others out there. And my number 2 slot, I don't know if this is allowed, but this is my video, so I can do it over the hell I want. It's a tie between the Azure's Glintstone Staff and the Lusat's Glintstone Staff. Now, the Lusat's is obviously here because it has incredibly high sorcery scaling. I mean, it's number 2. But really, keep in mind, this 50% increase FP cost, woo, is a doozy. But if you're like a hardcore sorcerer and you got a decent amount of points into mind, you can make it work. The other big reason is Lusat's will be your go-to staff when doing the Comet Azure cheese. I mean, other than the number 1 staff. The anticipation. You know, you like pop your Mimic to distract them, and you pop your Physical Potion that negates FP cost, and you pop a Terra Magica on the ground, and then you let that Kamehameha wave rip. To get this staff, you got to complete a puzzle over at the Celia Town of Sorcery. We got to light those 3 braziers. Bras, am I right? But once you light them aflame, a door will open. You got to fight the Nox Swordstress and the Nox Priest, and then you'll get right behind it the Lusat's Glintstone Staff. Congratulations, you now have no mana. And the Azure's Glintstone Staff, whew, it's got a special place in my heart. I've been using it ever since I got it. And it's mainly because of the increased cast speed. It feels nuts, dude. And like the 20% increased FP cost, I barely notice it. And another great thing is you can put it in your offhand and you get the cast speed bonus too. I mean, also the FP cost, but get over it. Honestly, you'd probably want to be main handing it and then offhanding something like, the meteorite staff with the rock sling. We went over this before. Weren't you listening? But I guess you'd offhand it if you wanted to main hand the number 1 staff. More anticipation. You get the Azure's Glintstone staff over at the Raya Lucaria Academy, or Raya. I don't know, dude. I don't know words. It's a bit of a hassle to get to. You have to unlock a bunch of shortcuts, but I've got a suggestion. Google it. Hey, I'm over here doing all the math. You can do something too. And for the number 1 spot, the all-powerful, the almighty Prince of Death Staff. Yes, that's right. My number 1 is the Prince of Death Staff. Are you surprised? Probably not. But let me preface this by saying that, again, I had to have 80 int and 80 faith to get that amount of sorcery scaling. If I were to just have 80 int and then the minimum 18 faith required to even equip the staff, it would not be anywhere close to the top. So you have to have a lot of investment to make it work. And you might be wondering, well, Kami, how much faith do I need to put into it to beat out the second highest damage staff, the Lusats? Well, first you're going to want to put 80 into your intellect attribute. Got it? Now the amount of faith that you need. Oh, it's a good one. After extensive testing, I'm happy to inform you that the magic number of faith you need is 69. Nice. That's right. The nice cap is a real cap. I didn't just make it up on the spot. I totally knew that this was going to come into play in my next video. I'm a freaking genius. I was so happy when that came up. Like, I got way too excited when that was the number. I'm going to be honest with you guys. Now listen, I know that putting that much int in faith is a lot. Said this multiple times. Some of you out there might be staying at a lower level, maybe around 150, like myself, to kind of make the game remain somewhat challenging while waiting for the meta level the community will agree on for PvP. So for those people, this staff might be too far of a stretch to actually be the best staff. But I had to put it in the number 1 slot because once you get 80 int and 80 faith, this thing slaps. I'm talking Will Smith level of slaps. Too soon? And of course, the main reason it's the number 1 spot is the whole 69 faith thing. Again, I'm a child, you caught me. So is the list what you expected? Let me know down in the comments along with your own top 3 stabs list. I'm interested to see what you have to say. And if you learned anything, or I made you giggle, you basic bitch, hit that like and subscribe button. You promised you would. And let me know if there's any other videos you want to see. I am your muse. I like doing this type of research stuff. Tell me what you want, what you really, really want. And remember, don't be a dick. Have a good game.